So, have you ever stopped to think about how a monster hurricane that barrels into Florida could have actually started its life thousands of miles away as just a little bit of rain in Africa? It sounds crazy, right? But it's a perfect example of what we call a crisis in perception, where we see the storm, but we completely miss the huge invisible engine that built it.
I mean, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that sense of mystery. We tend to think of weather as this local thing happening right now, but the truth is, its real story might have started on another continent months ago, totally hidden until it shows up on our doorstep. For this explainer, we're going to be using Marq de Villiers' fantastic book, Windswept, as our guide. It's really our lens for digging into the powerful, deeply interconnected systems that are running the show when it comes to our planet's weather. So, let's get into it.
Okay, so let's start with that big mystery. Where did a massive storm like Hurricane Ivan really begin? I'll give you a hint. The answer is probably not where you think it is.
Just take a look at this timeline. It all starts back in the spring of 2004, with some unexpected rains across the Sahel region of Africa. By summer, all that extra moisture is feeding over 100 little atmospheric systems that start drifting off the coast. And then, by September, just one, of those little disturbances has ballooned into the monster we all remember as Hurricane Ivan. Who would have thought, right? A little bit of green in Timbuktu could actually mean really bad news for Florida.
To really get your head around how a rain shower in Africa can turn into a hurricane in America, we have to zoom way out. We need to look at the fundamental engine that drives our entire atmosphere.
It's such a simple question, but the answer is pretty profound. You see, wind doesn't start with a storm or a breeze or anything here on Earth. It actually starts 93 million miles away with the sun.
Think about it. The Earth is a sphere, so the sun's energy hits it really unevenly. The equator gets absolutely blasted with direct heat. Think of it like a blowtorch set to high. But the poles, they just get these glancing, weak rays, kind of like a stove on a low simmer. And that creates this massive energy imbalance across the planet.
And here's where one of nature's most fundamental rules kicks in: entropy. It's basically the universe's law that things always try to even themselves out. Energy just wants to flow from where it's hot to where it's cold, and pressure wants to move from high to low. It's this constant, relentless drive for balance.
So here's how that plays out. Step 1, all that hot, light air at the equator rises up, creating a big zone of low pressure. Step 2, at the same time, cold, heavy air at the poles sinks down, creating high pressure. Step 3, nature sees this imbalance and rushes to fix it by moving air from the high pressure at the poles toward the low pressure at the equator. And that movement, well, that's it. That's wind. Okay, so that explains a simple flow from north to south. But how do we get from that to the swirling, complex weather we see on the news every night? Well, there's a huge twist in the story. Our planet doesn't just sit still. Right. If the Earth didn't spin, we'd just have these two giant, simple wind currents. Super boring. But because it does spin, it throws a massive wrench, or maybe a curveball, into the whole system.
This curveball has a name: the Coriolis effect. And what's wild is that it's not even a real force. It's just an effect that happens because we're on a spinning point of view. As the air tries to move in a straight line, the Earth literally spins out from underneath it, which makes the air look like it's curving.
So, in the northern hemisphere, this effect pushes moving air to the right, and down in the southern hemisphere, it pushes it to the left. This is the secret sauce. It's what turns straight-line winds into the spinning cyclones and giant weather systems that span entire continents. The end result of all this is a series of gigantic, rolling rivers of air. Scientists call them circulation cells, like the famous Hadley and Farrell cells. They act like a massive global conveyor belt, constantly scooping up heat from the equator and hauling it toward the poles. Now, this planetary engine has been running for billions of years. But our ability to actually see it, to understand it as one single connected system, that's incredibly new.
I mean, just try to put yourself in the shoes of an ancient sailor. You'd have absolutely no idea where storms came from or that they moved in predictable ways. A hurricane would feel like nothing less than the sudden, terrifying rage of an angry god.
For pretty much all of human history, our perception was trapped by the horizon. We could only ever see the immediate effect, the storm that's right in front of us, not the global cause that created it. It's like we were staring at a single gear, totally clueless about the massive machine it was a part of. But today, wow, everything's changed. We've got satellites giving us this godlike view from above.
We have unimaginably vast weather databanks and supercomputers that can model the entire planet's atmosphere. For the first time, we can finally see the whole engine humming away.
But here's the thing. Even with all these incredible tools, we still face that original crisis in perception. We really struggle to think in terms of the whole system, instead of just focusing on the isolated events it spits out.
And here's what makes it so tough. Weather systems are what scientists call chaotic. They have what's known as a sensitive dependence on initial conditions. You've probably heard of it. It's the famous butterfly effect. A tiny, almost immeasurable change at the very beginning can explode into a completely different outcome weeks down the line.
Picture it this way. If you could rewind the tape on Hurricane Ivan, you'd watch it shrink from a powerful hurricane to a tropical storm, then to a thunderstorm. And if you keep rewinding all the way back to Africa, it just becomes a moist, windy spot, completely identical to thousands of other spots that fizzle out and become absolutely nothing.
So that brings us right back to the big question. If it's so unpredictable, and if it starts from something so tiny and seemingly insignificant, is a hurricane just some random, arbitrary act of nature?
And the answer is a clear and resounding no. It is not random. It is the logical, visible result of that single interconnected global engine we've been talking about. The only reason it seems random is when we fail to see the system that connects everything together.
And that leaves us with one last really crucial question. Because, this isn't just about weather, is it? In our economies, in our societies, even in our own lives, what other critical connections are we completely missing just because we're so focused on the storm right in front of us instead of the global system that created it?